What if we could use smart tags to follow our garbage? No, it's no joke. In our society, we understand the supply and demand chain, but not everybody knows what happens in the removal chain. Waste travels in elaborate network transfer stations, landfills, and reprocessing plants by truck, train, boat, and plane, and is constantly rerouted by regulations and markets. Technology now allows us to track the movement of any man-made object from its creation to its disposal, and the system governing where our trash ends up are both complex and rarely understood. A team of researchers at MIT Sensible City Lab in the summer of 2008 created Trash Track for the Towards a Sentient City expedition. It is a technological system that tracks down the real-time journey of people's waste through a sensor, otherwise known as a tag. Trash Track focuses on how pervasive technology can expose the difficulty of waste management, especially in the urban setting. The first generation tags were battery operated and relied on GSM cell phone technology to send information back to MIT computers. It estimated the tag's position by measuring the signal strength from cell towers in sight of the device while comparing it to a map of cell phone towers. The technology is known as cell ID triangulation, but its location accuracy is nowhere near to that of a GPS. The first generation devices also proved to be contrary to the environmental goal of the project, as the tags themselves were toxic and contained lead. The second generation tags contain GPS and CDMA cell tower trilateration based on the Qualcomm InGeo platform. The tags are no longer as toxic as they are much smaller and use as little battery life as possible because they go into sleep mode until they are woken every 3 to 6 hours by an algorithm upon detection of motion by the sensor. Future generations will now have the ability to track waste across the borders. Some of you may ask, why is Trash Track so important? What's the point? As the population of cities grow, so does the waste. It's gotten to the point where landfills are so full, contaminated, and hazardous that waste must be transported and buried elsewhere. Waste removal remains a hidden form of infrastructure in cities, but as the amount of waste rises each year, the fates of these unwanted materials moved by this system have a serious overall impact on the health and safety of many individuals. When landfills reach their capacity and the cost of fuel for transportation rises, the practice of shipping waste away becomes increasingly expensive and unsustainable. Freshkills was a 2,200-acre man-made landfill before it was closed in 2001. It was the main garbage dump of New York City for over half a century, until it faced a number of lawsuits over air pollution and fears that the cost of a cleanup would be impossible. Today, it is a Superfund site that is shut down completely from receiving new incoming waste, but is still contaminated with hazardous substances and is monitored heavily by the Environmental Protection Agency. Today, New York City waste is compacted and shipped on trains to South Carolina on a daily basis, the trip of which is over 700 miles. As the population of the world's cities continues to rise, the importance of a well-functioning urban infrastructure and ecology rises as well. Monitoring and maintaining the health of both these systems is crucial, but just as the rise in population can bring in more crime, the rise in pollution, congestion, and a failure in the infrastructure, such as that as waste management, can be absolutely catastrophic. Trash Track educates the world by proving that the complexity of an infrastructural system, such as waste management, can be managed through persuasive computing and sensing. Made accessible to the public, the mystery of where our waste goes is no longer an issue, as it can now be easily tracked. Maybe the human race will finally take notice of how wasteful it's been. The message is clear. As the population of cities increases, the space needed to dump waste increases as well. But even in those locations, the space is limited. Therefore, waste is shipped hundreds of miles elsewhere. Will we finally develop a more sustainable practices? In October of 2009, in Seattle, Washington, 500 people were invited to track their trash. The result was roughly 3,000 items being tracked. They ranged from sneakers, to cans, to newspapers, to even a bagel. After 2 months of tracking, the results were just as expected. Some items had traveled very little, but on the other hand, some items have made their way across the country towards the south. Trash Track had ultimately proved how unsustainable waste practices really are, and how educating the public could change our methods, and even our use of materials. We need to be smarter.